Hey there, folks. It's Roger, and welcome to another edition of Giant Talk. I'm very, very pleased to have with us today Sten, who joins us all the way from Australia, so literally spanning the globe with this one. And Sten is someone that we've had a relationship with for a number of years, and there was a topic that's kind of quite burning for him. It's something that's been popping up a few times, so we're going to explore that a bit today. But Sten, welcome to Giant Talk.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm always excited to have these conversations with you.
No, it's great to have you. Great to have you. So, do you want to just tell the listeners a little bit about you, what you do, what your business is, just so that they can see where you fit in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Sten. I'm a co-founder and CEO of a company called Tability. And so what we do, it's basically a OKR tracking platform. And what's a bit different about us is that we put a lot of emphasis on making the accountability part really seamless. And we also leverage today a lot of AI to automate a lot of the process as well and help teams understand better what's happening with the goals.
Right. Okay. And interesting, you mentioned that you have a particular focus with your with Tability on accountability. Mm-hmm. Is that where you got the term Tability from? Is that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, love that. Love that. So I don't know why it's just the first time that's clocked with me, but I still love it. So, okay, accountability. When people come to you and say, we've heard of OKRs, we're thinking about using them, what should we expect? What's the benefit we should hope to see from them? Tell me how accountability fits into that. How often do they talk about that? How important is it to them?
Yeah, so I think the issue. So before Tability, so I was a product manager at Atlassian. I was there for 6 years, and so the company adopting OKRs. And what was clear to me is I think what all the teams managed to do pretty well is to do the workshops. Pretty well. Let's say that part people understand how we need to set some goals at the beginning of the quarter. To do it well, it would be, first know that sometimes, it takes a bit of effort for people to understand how OKRs are different from the projects that they had. But once you get there, let's say that, you've done the work and then you have your quarterly goals and they're in a spreadsheet or a doc somewhere. I think where people drop the ball often is what happened next. And having a set of goals is one thing. Understanding if you're on track is another. And one of the issues that you have, if you use a doc or a spreadsheet, a doc does not know that it needs to be updated. And as soon as you start working on your goals, you're going to be sucked into so many other things, right? You have your meetings, your emails, your calls, your demos, all these things that you need to do to achieve your goals. It takes your attention away from the OKRs that you've set, the top priorities. And so this is where people start to drift away, right? And the typical story for me was, once a month you get an email from your boss saying hey, by the way, can you update the goals? And this is where you rediscover your priorities, and then you just realize you worked on a lot of things, but not the things that matter. So what we do is basically try to make this as seamless as, try to make basically goals part of your weekly routine. So instead of being something that someone has to remind you of once a month, once you put your OKRs or your goals in Tability, our job is to make sure you're not going to forget about them. But not only that, it's also for you to understand what are the risks, right? Because a lot of the things for me about execution is not, it's the great story would be that when we set our goals, we have a perfect strategy, we always know what to do, etc. But more often, we have an idea of what is going to make us successful. And then we get to it. And then as we start working on things, we learn things and then we adapt, etc. Right. And so the idea for us is we want to make that learning experience really fast. And the more you can learn quickly, the easier it is for you to correct the course. Right. And so to not wait the end of a quarter to realize that, hey, things are not looking great. You need to be able to realize that in week number 2, week number 3, and start correcting the course early.
Right. Okay. So you see clients actually course correcting in the quarter rather than waiting until the end of the quarter, then, do you?
Yeah, but so that gets actually. This is my main point here. My personal belief is that the job of OKRs is to help teams self-manage. Because if you think about, so what happens, like a reason why teams adopt a goal-setting framework is because as a company grows, the distance between the people that are doing the job and the people that are setting the vision increases, right? And so you're a small team, you're a startup, you have 10 people,
exactly.
You can just be in the same room.
We've seen that a lot. And
so you add middle management, and then you add like departments, and you have GMs, etc. And so now what it means is like, if you're a team and you do something and you want to know if that thing is right, and you don't have something in place that can tell you like, hey, yeah, you can keep going. What you have to do is like, you have to go through all these hoops all the way to the GM, the CEO, etc. And you do that presentation and they give you feedback. And that cycle can take weeks, right? And so, or months, like this is why you have those monthly business reviews, quarterly business reviews. So if a team doesn't have like something that helps them understand every week, we're moving in the right direction, we can keep doing this, and we don't have to go back all the way to the top of the company to understand that this is okay. If a team doesn't have that, then those teams are going to move way slower than an org where every team understands exactly what they're supposed to deliver, but not only that, but also has a way to make sure that they're delivering that in the right way.
Yeah, there's a really strong. It's interesting because you just picked up on, you mentioned the term waste there, and I'm kind of going back to my old sort of lean management days where the different types of waste were just drilled into me, and you're absolutely right. I mean, the longer it takes to go up the chain to get feedback or a decision, the more time is wasted, and obviously time is money and resource and so on and so forth. So increasing that level of or that ability to self-manage is incredibly. It's not just. It doesn't just help in terms of reducing waste. The consequence of that is they're obviously responding quicker, so speed of execution accelerates. And it's interesting because what we've seen over the years, we've been working with OKRs, and this is going back as far as 2016 now. So, we've got a good 8 years under our belt. I think the primary benefit that clients show to us sort of 12 months on is that what they typically had taken 12 months to achieve previously before OKRs, they were achieving in about 6. And so it speeded up execution for them. And I think it's a blend, isn't it, of having that structure, having the mechanisms in place to remind us, nudge us that things need to move forward. Because you're absolutely right. It's easy to drift, isn't it? I mean, there's so much noise distracting us, pulling us off course, competing for our attention, that to not have that focus, to not have that little subtle nudge every week or something to keep us on track is hugely beneficial, isn't it?
Yeah,
hugely beneficial.
Yeah, and I'll go also. I'm taking the assumption that companies that put a lot of effort in recruiting the right people and people that are. It's not just that it's time that is valuable. It's like these people are the best you've found, and if they don't know what to do, they're going to figure out something that keeps them busy
leave pretty quickly.
Well, that is one thing that happens at the end, but also it's like while they're waiting for the signal to come back from upper management, if they don't have like an idea of like what is it that they're supposed to do because there's no clarity around the goals, they're not going to. It's like provided you have the right people, they're going to find something to do. Now, is that thing that they found the right thing for the company? And that's where you start to have these discrepancies between like a product team that starts to work on something, a marketing team that wants to do a launch, and that has nothing to do together.
Yeah.
And so that for me is like I've changed over the years my metaphor about like what's the right way to explain the OKRs and the value, etc. And I really think like I'm getting close to something that looks like it's like a sonar and a signal that you send. And so you work on things, and then you're going to send your signal out to understand, like, is this correct? And so if it takes you a long time to get the signal back, to understand, like, okay, this is correct, it means that you keep doing what you're doing for a long time. And if that thing is wrong, then it might means 4 weeks of work that is wasted.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about like, it's when it looks great, it means that teams have figured out a way to short circuit, like to take a shortcut in terms of feedback. So the issue with that, like, I'm interested, it's hard to quantify. It's not something you can put on the website and you say like, just do this and then you're going to get this much more, like leads or revenue right away.
Yeah.
But it's something for me. It's something that is important because it just makes every single team like better. So,
and I think what we're talking about here, particularly if we kind of frame it as enabling teams to self-manage, there's a massive challenge for the leadership in the business to enable that. And dare I say, there are some leadership teams that will not tolerate it because they are far more about command and control. They're far more about instructing. I think it's really interesting that quite a lot of the inquiries that we get from organizations that are considering OKRs is when they've had a change of leadership, usually a shift, a change in CEO, and they bring with them a different style, and they're looking for the mechanisms to kind of deliver that enable that, bring it to life. Because it is about providing the direction and being really clear about what the priorities are, but then enabling what I would call bottom-up energy, to come up. So you see the challenges are set, or the problems are clearly illustrated, and they're asked to come up with the solutions for each one of those in terms of the teams themselves. And I think that is it's quite a cultural shift. It's quite a cultural shift, and wrapped around that as well is a degree of psychological safety, which is a big journey that we're seeing a lot of organizations go on nowadays.
I fully agree with that. And I think to go back to the what you were saying at the beginning about like some organization, like the management wants to control things. I think this is also why I wanted to have this discussion with you, because I wonder, like sometimes I feel like I'm in front of a team that is adopting OKRs without knowing exactly why they're doing it. Right. And I think that there's a part of OKRs, like if you for people that have read the books, and if you read like, it's easy to read into the books just the path where you're going to get like a complete visibility on your company, and it feels like you will be able to control everything. And also the promise, is like that's the promise of every book, is like every story is always a success story.
Yeah.
And so if success is not immediate, I think that sometimes you start seeing a lot of friction in that adoption. And not just friction, actually, it's not friction, it's frustration. Frustration with the framework, frustration with what's going on and the new information that they see. So I think it's important for people to go into that knowing like, what is it? What do we want out of this? Right? Why are we adopting the goal setting framework? Then why OKRs? And what does a good implementation will look like?
Yeah.
I think the more you have this discussion up front, the easier it is to actually just go through the rough like first quarters where everybody is going through that change management and trying to understand, it's like, okay, how do we do things now? This is a new approach. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it is about setting expectations up front. Don't think that just by writing your goals in an OKR structure, in an OKR way, that's going to be the silver bullet that's going to change everything for you. Of course, it isn't. Where I think where we've seen OKR implementations really struggle on some, in fact, we've either qualified out of or just just refuse to work with is when perhaps the CEO has read a book and thrown it at someone and say, go do this. That just absolutely reinforces the message that this isn't my job, that's your job. And I want to see how it works, and then I might put my name to it later. I'm not 100% convinced, It's completely the wrong energy to get behind it. It needs to be absolutely sponsored and in some degrees led from the top, although the larger the organization, we're definitely seeing them. And this is great. This is definitely, I think, an evolution that I've seen over the past 2 or 3 years, but they're investing in distinct resources similar to a CEO office or a chief of staff that has a team that is responsible for execution and strategic alignment. So it's becoming a recognized discipline, I think, I don't know whether function's the right word, but something that organizations are taking more seriously, I think, as they get larger. Dare I say, the other type of implementation that we've seen really struggle is where HR, unfortunately, to be fair, I'm seeing less and less of this, but definitely in the early days of OKRs. And I think it was because they saw the term objective and immediately thought, this is and at that point in the sort of late teens, there was a lot of mid to late teens. There was a lot of talk about how do we re-engineer, how do we evolve the annual appraisal, how do we get away from that? And I think because there was a move within sort of HR thinking to get to more regular check-ins, and this thing called OKRs was coming along, and the whole ethos on that is more regular check-ins. They were going, that's the solution. But that's where they try to then use it in an individual capacity, and that is the kiss of death I've seen for OKRs. I really have, because it just overloads them. It makes them really cumbersome. It means you've actually got too many, and so when you come to review and reset every quarter, it just becomes this huge beast, which is just creating, or rather consuming, more energy than the value that it creates. So that's when you're out of balance there. Where we see the best, the most successful implementations is where either we work at both ends of the spectrum. We work with high growth founder-led businesses, and we also work with corporates that want to reconnect the organization to the strategy. And the founder-led businesses, success comes from a founder who's passionate about it and is willing to nominate a few people to really get behind it and lead it. Not for them to necessarily lead it themselves. They'll absolutely put their weight behind it. They'll sponsor it, but they're too busy to actually get involved in all the day-to-day stuff. Okay. But when it needs it, when there's clear messaging that needs to go out about how important it is and what we're focusing on, they're there, they're behind it. And for the ones that they own, they're also transparent about how they're working with them. And then at the other end of the spectrum, the corporate end of the spectrum, again, it's where they invest in a distinct resource to move this forward, and not just on a project basis. This is not just about throwing resource at it for the first 6 months or 12 months. It's about a resource, like I say, like the Office of Chief of Staff or something like that, that is focused on making sure that the strategic priorities of the organization are aligned to, well understood, and the right people, the right teams are contributing to them. I'm going to add 2 more things, if I may, that kind of span, and jump in if you disagree, or if you can relate to this. I say across both of those, 2 more ingredients for success. Don't automatically assume that your strategic priorities should align directly into functions. Very rarely will a priority just neatly fit into one function, and one function can deliver that. It usually requires input from a number of different functions. So you have to build in a degree of cross-functionality. And coming back to the question as to how do we know it's working, we get clients that come to us and say, we've got too much silo working. There isn't enough collaboration across the organization. How do we solve that problem? So that is you need to focus on the design of your OKR framework to make sure that you kind of engineer in the opportunity to bring together people from a number of functions to focus on one priority. So you've got genuine cross-functionality built in there. So it's really important to have that element into it. So hopefully there's a few things there which kind of, and obviously one of the flip side, if they come to us asking for that, one of the success measures is, are they seeing more collaboration, of course, and are they seeing those silos break down? And there'd be less conflict. And coming back to the point of waste from earlier on, are they seeing less waste as a result of, internal conflict? Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is all a great point. Like, I was thinking just before when you mentioned the HR, like, I feel like at one point it would be good to go and dive into more about that aspect, because I'm assuming some people in HR are going to be listening to this, and that is not to tell you that you're doing it wrong, but I think it's like, if I think about everything you said, right, I think you can think about OKRs as something that is for, it's about giving people goals, like, or everybody should have goals. Like, it's just a little bit like that. Like bear with me, like, for a second, I'm going to make I think I can find a way to make that point. So I've seen, when people come at it from, it needs to be tied to the HRIS system. It's like we have like performance management goals, so therefore, like, we need to have goals for everything. Like, it feels like the purpose of it is like we want to, we're back into that control thing, or like we want everybody to have goals. Yeah. It's like it's just a mandate. The mandate is like the reason why we do this is because we believe that everyone should have goals.
Yeah.
The other side of it is more what you're talking about, which is like, well, we want to enable collaboration. We want to facilitate that to make it easier for teams to understand like what another team is focused on, like, so that everybody has the same language and you have a clear set of priorities. And what those priorities, it's like management leadership defines that from the top, like, pretty clearly as well. And I think for me, that's the thing when I explain to people is like why I don't think you want the OKRs like really close to the HR goals, because that side of it, it's more about like same thing. We're going back to that. We want to help people self-manage. So it's a tool that should be built for the team. Whereas like all the HR tool, it's very important, but it has a different purpose.
Yeah.
It's not about like, growing the business. It's about like making sure that, we have the right people and they have the right qualities and that they know how to grow. But what you need on the other side is like, it's much closer in my head to, what you need with like the reason why we have project management tools and we have design tools that now are collaborative is because we want people to be able to use the information that they have and the goals that they have and the strategy that they have in a much better way to achieve results faster. I thought like I'd love to maybe talk a bit more. I think it's like it would be interesting. Same thing, like I think for me this is really important. It's like I want the people that are listening to understand a bit more like concretely what it means when I say this is a situation that you might have and it doesn't mean that it's not working.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the one that is the most common one. It's when a team, a company, they decide to adopt OKRs, they set all the goals, right? They do all that work. At that point, they're super excited. They have like visibility. It's great. Mm-hmm. It sounds like it's going to be amazing. And then they work on everything. And then a lot of things are in the red. And so now the question is, everything looks red. And then the conclusion seems sometimes that people are jumping and they're like, OKRs broke the company. Right? It's like we were doing great before we started to adopt that. And now like, look at this. It's like, it looks bad. Whereas like, there will be cases where the implementation of the rollout was not great. And so people are frustrated and, obviously like, maybe that's not working. But I think in a lot of cases, it's actually that it's shining some light on dysfunctions that exist.
Yes.
And people just don't like that, right? But it's like, it's not showing you something new. It's showing you something that you couldn't see before. Yeah. And now I find it to be actually a victory because now you know where the problems are, you know where your bottlenecks are, and you can start addressing things like instead of obfuscating the truth. So so just about that one to start, right? It's like, is that something you've seen? And if you see like someone in this situation, like what can you do to help them like overcome like that sentiment?
I think what you say is absolutely spot on. I think you say they couldn't see it before. I say actually perhaps they wouldn't see it before. I think there's, and it's interesting because I can think back to a couple of implementations that we've done, and maybe one or two members of the senior teams in those implementations have got rather uncomfortable by what it starts to reveal, and have actually ended up leaving the organisations. And it was interesting. I'm thinking of two specific examples. In those examples, the organisation was not really that sad to see them go. So okay. I think it's the increase in transparency, it's the increase in accountability, which at first, when you kind of come out with the message that OKRs are for teams rather than individuals, people can go, "Oh, how do you get individual accountability?" Well, I mean, obviously that's in how you structure the OKR. Which I think is an absolute wonder of OKRs, that they can have that team focus and also that individual accountability. But coming back to your question about how have clients kind of dealt with that, it's all red. My God, we feel like we're failing. What we try and do up front is, again, it's about managing expectations. And we do quite a bit of work on kind of getting them to understand what the message that 100% actually greens across the board is not, and this is often diametrically opposed to perhaps how they've worked in the past, is not necessarily a good thing. However, you got to counterbalance this. All those, even if they're all reds, like in the scenario you were talking about, you've got the status of the OKR to look at, and that's not the progress score. The status is different, isn't it? Because the status, some may call it confidence level, but it's about our confidence around hitting that result by the end of the period. And I'm working with a client at the moment, a corporate client who is launching 12-month OKRs from the 1st of January, and their first check-in point at the executive committee level will be at the end of the first quarter. And they were in a little bit of a panic at first, going, well, we're probably not going to have very much progress to report on. So, the report's not going to look particularly impressive, is it? I said, yeah, you probably won't have. But remember, you've got two perspectives. You've got two different scores that you're going to be reporting on here, because you're going to have your confidence scores, and your confidence scores are certainly in the first quarter more important than your progress scores, because it's your confidence scores which give you your kind of early warning system around, okay, this may have barely started, but it's on track, or actually we're already seeing problems, so we need to focus resource and time and energy on making sure that this either doesn't fall off track or getting it back on track, even if it's, even in the first few months it started to hit some problems. So I think the confidence scoring is a really important dimension, which a lot of organizations have never really used as a metric on the on goal progression. Is that something that kind of backs up? Can you back that up with what you see?
Yeah, well, we believe in this so much that we would, come up with our own metric around confidence. Like we basically took the NPS formula, like percentage of green minus percentage of red, and now this is something that we track in our platform.
Yeah.
And it's quite useful because as a team, even with our team, like I can look at how the quarter goes, and I can see that, if at one point of the quarter, like confidence dropped for a specific plan, and then when it recovered. And it's also a very useful way to compare teams because, as you said, I think it's like, it's like with the metrics and stuff, like oftentimes, like, sometimes you have like a KR that is measurable, and sometimes it's a project, it's hard to do. But what you can have for any key result is like a red, yellow, green, and so if we can use that information to come up with a score, then it makes things really comparable. So also in when then you get it back to the discussions that people have, that's the first indicator. That's the first thing that you'll use to understand like what you want to focus on. Like what is off track? What do we think that is at risk today? And then you will look at the score and the trajectory. But it's like, confidence is like, it's like probably like one of the main ways to evaluate, how things are going.
Absolutely. Because really, your progress score has no context otherwise.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. Just to come back to your original question about how we help clients with this, and I kind of touched upon how culturally it can be quite a shift to go from perhaps where they've had it drilled into them that 100% it's got to be green across the board, otherwise we're failing, to suddenly actually some ambers and some reds are probably what we're looking for here. What we try and do is depending on where they come from and what the culture is before OKRs start, we may well actually coach them around setting some, shall we say, 100% achievable OKRs in the first few cycles, the first few quarters, just to get their confidence up in using it. Okay, just to get them into the routines, and people start to kind of all understand the language, and they're all connecting in the same way, and then start to perhaps introduce the stretch maybe from the third or fourth cycle, and that's where you start to say, right, okay, what was 100%? Now let's calibrate that at 80%, and work on the basis that theoretically, if everybody delivered on time, nobody took any holiday or was off ill, and all third parties followed through on their agreements, what theoretically is possible, and that's your extra stretch. That's your extra 20%, and so we build on their confidence in that respect, and that's another way of kind of easing them into that, rather than just kind of saying right from day one, you must have that stretch. And from a change management point of view, I think that in an organization that hasn't been used to that is that's going to be quite unnerving and probably quite undermining, I think, for OKRs. It will certainly make people want to not engage with them. That's what we've seen.
No, I think even that gets you to the other side of that. It's like when things are extremely, like the other way I've seen OKRs, it's actually the complete opposite picture, and it looks like this. It's like everything is green all the time, and a lot of the time it's like people have set some goals that are it's almost like the roadmap, and so they're just checking that things are done on time, and I'm like, well, that's, I don't know if it's helping you understand if like the things that you're doing are going to give you the results you want. But in both cases, I think it's like, so to maybe to go back to like the original point, I think it's really important. To understand, the more you understand like what OKRs are for and what you want to get out of it. Like I think the easier it is even to set goals, right? Because if we say, this is to help you self-manage, right? It's like, and that's the thing. I think one of the frustration that I see oftentimes for people that are new to OKRs and they try to adopt the framework, right? And usually the framework adoption, it comes from the top. Leadership says we're going to use that, and then it gets pushed down to the teams. And at some point, you see some teams. I think you probably would have seen that where people come to you and they're like, I don't know what my goals are supposed to be, and I have to do it by Friday. I have to submit it. And for me, it's like what I try to do is like to go back and be like, what's useful to you, right? It's like, don't think just about like what management wants to see. It's like, what's going to help you next week to understand, or in 6 weeks to understand that you're on track for your painted picture at the end of a quarter. Like, what is success going to look like? And then it's like, let's pick some things that are going to help you understand that you're moving in the right direction. And so I think it's like, if people had that in mind, like when they start setting the goals, I think it would help them a lot. As opposed to like seeing, sometimes people feeling like a little bit lost around like what they're supposed to do with the goals that they have to set. So does that Does that feel like something you've seen or?
Yeah, and I'm thinking as well, a big part that we've worked on in a recent project is actually defining the roles of the people that are involved.
Yes.
And it's one thing, yes, them understanding the OKRs that they should be setting, but it's another thing kind of understanding their role within the overall framework. And I think that clarity is super important. It really is super important. So in terms of, I'm conscious that we're kind of reaching the end of our time together. In terms of the what you would say to clients or prospects that are speaking to you, in terms of the sort of top 2, top 3 benefits that you would give them as examples of the impact that OKRs can have. Just in what would you summarize as those being then?
So I'm working on something actually that I'd like to be able to share with people, but I'd say the number one is my main question, especially to a leadership team, that if I see that they're unsure about the value of the framework, and that happens sometimes, right? They just think that they should adopt OKRs, and so they're coming at it. I would start with that point that we've been hammering, which is what's your end goal here? And I'm going to insist on the fact that, it's like, this is a tool that is here to help your teams self-manage. And I want to start with that because then, and explain that, it's like for me, success is going to be your team moving in the right direction without having to come back to you all the time. And if that happens, then that's for me, that's success. The second point is going to be around the ability for everyone then to go in any part of the org and understand what are the priorities. So the part number one, right, is like, as a team, do I know what my focus is for the next 3, 6, 12 months?
Yeah.
And can I self-manage myself? Can I understand 6 weeks in the future if I'm still on track? I'm confident about that. But the next bit is if I then go and look at the team next to me, do they speak the same language as me? Or, if I look at the spreadsheet or doc, does it look like gibberish to me because we use different terms?
Yeah.
And so there's this idea of you want to have to start using a shared language for focus and have much better communication. And that for me, then it leads to a much better execution, right? It's that's the end goal, is that then your results are going to be better, faster. People are going to set better strategies. But I think that what happens often is that people take that picture the other way around. And they're we're adopting OKRs because we want to be hitting our goals tomorrow. And we have really strong goals. And we think that if we have OKRs, then everything is going to work well. Whereas there's probably a lot of other things in the org that you might need to do to be able to achieve these goals. And that has nothing to do with the framework, right? So if you go the other way around and you help people, you empower your team, then you help your teams communicate better, then that ends up in a company that is able to move fast and deliver outstanding results compared to the peers. So that's the thing. And I think that if you start by the end, then this is where the frustrations starts to bubble up super early. And then, that generally doesn't bode well, in my opinion.
No. Okay. All right. Sten, thank you so much for your thoughts today. If our listeners would like to reach out to you or take a look at Tability, how can they do that?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, Tability, so it's TABILITY.io, or .com works as well. You're going to find us. You're going to be able to look at what our product does. You can also find me, I was going to say on Twitter, but I don't spend as much time as I used to over there, but on LinkedIn, I'm pretty active. So find me like Sten, STENPT. And then, it's like DM me, like ask me any questions. I'm always happy to engage.
Indeed you are. Right, that's great. Thanks very much, Sten. So just leaves me to say thank you for joining us on another edition of Giant Talk. I'm Roger, and I'm signing off now. And I look forward to having you with us on the next edition. Thanks very much, Sten. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.